All right. We're joined by the Monster Energy NASCAR All-Star Race winner, Kyle Busch, the driver of the number 18 M&M's Red, White, and Blue Toyota. Kyle, you could become the 8th driver to sweep the Charlotte race weekends this weekend. Your brother was the last one to do it. What would that mean to you?
It certainly mean a lot. You know, that's what we come to the racetrack to do, is to try to win each and every weekend. But it's been a long, long time since I won at Charlotte, which was never in a Cup car. So finally we got that out of the way, and now we look forward to hopefully being able to make it back-to-back. So we'll see how it goes. You know, thought we had some speed there to fire off with practice. A lot of guys kind of caught up to us and got a lot faster. So we've got to gain a little bit more in order to be where we need to.
As part of the 600 miles of remembrance, you're going to have private first class William Johnson displayed on your car. Can you just talk about that tribute a little bit?
Yeah, it's a really neat deal that NASCAR and all of us are doing for you know, bringing the Troops to the Track program, obviously, that we have, but also the names on the cars. And my gentleman's from Oxford, North Carolina, so it's kind of a home game for their family, and just paying remembrance to him and what all he sacrificed for us, and being able to allow us to go out here and race each and every weekend, and to have a lot of fun. So Memorial Day weekend is just that, to remember those men and women both that did so much for our country.
All right, we're going to open it up for questions. We'll start with Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Kyle, did you get much up into the traction compound when you were out there? I think I heard some people talking about you were kind of doing some different arcs, or some other guys were too, also on 3 and 4. Did you get a sense of it? And kind of what's your thoughts about this compound being put on an asphalt track, first time for something like this after what we've seen at Bristol?
Yeah, it's I got into it a little bit there with 3 and 4, just kind of running up a little bit for coming to the green for some of our qualifying runs there. You know, we were only making 1-lap runs, so there wasn't a whole lot going on. And the track was really, really light to begin with. You know, they run the tire dragging around here, and it doesn't put the rubber down like it needs to. Unfortunately, I don't know why the track is so light, but you know, they need to put more pressure on that thing or something. I don't know, to get it blacker. It's just not very black, and it seems very dusty when we all rolled off this morning. So interesting there, but other than that, you know, the cars were starting to put the rubber down, and it was starting to get more black as practice progressed. But you get outside of that black just a little bit, and it seemed pretty slick. So you know, we definitely just need to continue to make the track wider. I'm sure Xfinity cars will do that. I'm sure the Xfinity race will do that, and hopefully make it for a really good Sunday. I've only ever used the traction compound. It's probably not the same one, but years ago at my home track, they put it down in the outside groove to try to make an outside groove there, and it didn't really, it wasn't noticeable the first week that they did it, but it took a few weeks for it to kind of get wore in and kind of groomed a little bit, and then it was actually not bad. So I don't know if we can groom it that fast here in just one weekend, but we'll see.
Bob?
Bob Cockers, ESPN. NASCAR made some changes to the foot boxes of the cars for plate races and for all races next year in reaction to your accident. Was there anything that you saw in the Almirola accident that you felt like NASCAR needs to look at?
No, I don't know what happened there. I did hear Almirola, some of his comments, that he felt the first knife in his back when he hit. So that was just a slide, and he just hit like you would a wall or anything else, you know. And it wasn't like it didn't seem like it was a blunt stop, but I don't know. I don't have the crash data either. So, but I did see obviously how high the car got, and then how it slammed back down, and you could see the truck arm mounts really dig a chunk out of the racetrack, and I thought that's what hurt his back, was just the slam back down. But you know, it's interesting that we've seen some back injuries. They've been in various ways and in various seats, I'm sure. But you know, I think that how to fix that, I'm no doctor or practitioner or anything else, so it's going to be hard for me to distinguish how we fix that. But hopefully we can figure something out.
George?
Yeah, Kyle, over here behind Bob. George Diaz, Orlando Sentinel. NASCAR announced those changes for the 2018 season. Kind of what's your big picture takeaway from that, and specifically address the road course scenario here coming up in Charlotte next year?
I think it's great. I think it's just a little bit of a mix-up, something to change it around, you know. And honestly, you'd like to see some different venues on there. I think all of us would, but it's hard to get some of these venues that have been here in the past on the schedule, or some of them that aren't on the schedule that are still in operation on the schedule with the sanctioning body and the sanctioning agreements and everything else. There's a lot of money involved in all that stuff. So there's also the guarantee of the races and the racetracks that are already on the schedule that won't take place till 19 or 20, I think. So overall, though, to kind of mix it up a little bit and not have us going, I can pretty much memorize the schedule where we're at right now, you know, so it's definitely going to throw me for a loop next year, not knowing where the hell we're going the following week. But all in all, it's going to be interesting to see the Brickyard being the cutoff race. I think that's going to be fun. You know, more times than not, the cutoff race isn't a huge decider. It kind of was, I feel like, years ago, especially when Mayfield was involved and he got that win at Richmond, and some other stuff kind of happened the next couple of years. But past that, you know, I like Richmond in the chase. I think that's a great place for us, so I'm partial to that. I think the Roval here at Charlotte is going to be interesting, and it's going to be different. You know, it's just a different take on Charlotte Motor Speedway. I'm not sure what to expect. I haven't run it. I know AJ did, but you know, the setup and what it's going to take to get through the slow, small stuff that there's not a lot of load, not a lot of downforce over here in the short section is going to be entirely different than what you're going to need entering turn 3 at 165 miles an hour, you know. So it's going to be interesting to see what all people do with their setups and how you work on that, and you know, what kind of things you'll have to give up in order to be good in the infield section.
Hey, Kyle Rippinell from the Charlotte Observer. Carl Larson talked a little after the race last week about what he gave up in a pit stop. With it being harder to pass in anything but restarts, do you see an even greater emphasis on pit stop precision than you might have in the past?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's kind of been the name of the game probably the last 8-9 years or so, is pit stops have really taken focus and been the forefront. I know it has been for us at JGR. The guys at our place do an awesome job with training and the workout room, as well as the guys doing their pit stops and practice and stuff like that. So I know everybody takes a huge emphasis on that, but I feel like our guys have been one of the best. I know with some of the things that we've done with our tools that we use across the wall, obviously we've spent some resources on all that. And, you know, we've kind of been the leader in development, I feel like, with pit stops for the last probably 15 years. But besides that, you know, it's always an emphasis on restarts, because that's the time when you're closest to all your competitors. As you start to kind of get single filed out, spread out, it's harder to get or gain on the people in front of you. So you want to get all you can when you can, and use the momentum sometimes to take that spot from the guy in front of you. So restarts have always been really, really important, probably even a little bit more so than pit stops.
Woody Kane with MRN. Kyle, we saw the news about Red Horse closing its doors, and I was curious to get your feeling on how some competitive teams haven't been able to make the model work, while guys like you and Brad Keselowski have, and give younger drivers some opportunities. What are some of the challenges that you as an owner face there?
I don't know what Brad's scenario is. You'll have to ask him. I do believe that I have heard that he puts money in himself. I know that I put money in myself. So, you know, I wouldn't say that the model is working for us. I just think that we're content with the amount of money that we are spending, that makes it worth our while. There just aren't any big sponsors. There aren't any Fortune 500 companies, I think, besides M&M's, Mars with Pedigree now, that's joining us with Todd Gilliland with Pedigree to be on our truck. And it's just not, there's not enough people on TV, there's not enough people in the stands. The sponsorship just doesn't come, they just don't care. And that's the most frustrating part of it. So somehow we have to all continue as a group to lower our cost of racing. Our cost is 3.2, that's how much it takes to run a full operation of a truck team, and that number should be around 2. And how to get it lower, you know, there's some engine talks I know and some body talks I know, but you know, we're hitting it, but we're only hitting it about $500,000 by doing that, you know. So your biggest expense is your people, and you know, that's where it all comes from. But as far as our model goes, it does work right now, thanks to the support of Toyota, thanks to the support of the Gragsons with Switch, and the Myatt Snyders and the Bubba Wallace's sponsors and Eric Jones sponsors and the people like that we've had over the course of the years that we're able to make it all work. And to really make it work and to drive your cost down, you have to have 3 teams, and even 4 teams makes it even better. But we're not to the point yet where we're ready to grow, because we still need to continue to develop our third team and make it a strong force to be reckoned with each and every week. But once we get to 4 teams, people are mad at us because then, you know, we're too good, people can't beat us, whatever you want to say, and so people are mad that we're overtaking the sport, which all we're trying to do is continue to help and build it. But you know, there's a double-edged sword in anything that I do anyways, so we just keep working on it, keep trying, and make it work as best we can for us.
Kyle, Ben White, Lexington Dispatch. Kentucky Speedway and Indianapolis Motor Speedway sort of seem to have limited amounts of winners. In other words, you have to be really good to win both places. You're one of those people. Could you just talk about how special those tracks are to you personally?
Yeah, I think once you kind of figure out a place, you know, it seems to fit well with you, and if you can get everything figured out in practice and make your car strong there, then you're good in the race. And some years you're good and you're on, and other years you mess it up and something happens, you know. But I feel like Brad and myself, and Truex last year was actually really fast, but we've kind of distanced ourselves a little bit at Kentucky, especially with the repave. I liked it before the repave. I thought it was great being able to move all over the racetrack and having it as bumpy as it was. And you know, sometimes that jukes a driver out. It kind of scares a guy when the car bounces and gets sideways, you know, where for me, you just kind of drive through it and figure it out later. You know, a place like Indy, though, it's really, really smooth. You got to learn from the best there at that place. I learned from Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, Juan Montoya, actually, and just being able to pick up the points of which make those guys good there and utilizing those to your advantage. So last couple of years have been phenomenal for us there, and you know, hopefully that continues and we can continue to bring home some Brickyard 400 wins, because those are some cool ones to get.
Kyle, Jerry Jordan, kickingthetires.net, PRN. Coming into next week at Dover, you struggle, it seems like in the first race at Dover, and the second race you pick up and finish second or third or top 10 for the past 3 years. Is there something about that track going into it next week versus the second race is different, or is it just bad luck for you?
Well, the first race is typically just a race to go get all you can get, and don't worry about what happens. The second race is a chase race, so you got to be mindful of what happens. You know, I feel like we can finish second, third, or fourth there every time we go there. It doesn't matter, you know, but you always have that Jimmy Johnson fella that's really, really fast there that is really hard to beat. So I've always tried to probably overextend my reach a little bit to try to compete with him or to try to beat him, and it's hard to do. I think the last time I did beat him there was just because he had a faster car, but he sped on pit road in the final stop, and so I got the win on that one, you know. But Harvick's been really good there as of late, as well as Truex. Truex is fast, so that's why I say we're always second to fourth. We're somewhere in there, just depending on how pit road things go and what happens in the long run. But we just can't overjump that hurdle of being better than the 48 car there for some reason.
Mike Nett from FrontStretch.com. Kyle, you had a little bit of excitement off of turn 2, but didn't hit the wall. Larson actually did make contact. It looked like a couple other guys got a little out of shape on that exit as well. It's always been a little tricky, but is it a little extra tricky this weekend, and did the VHT have anything to do with that?
No, VHT didn't have anything to do with it. Actually, just the sun popping out for the little while that it did. You know, when we fired off today for practice, track was a little bit loose, and you could rotate around there a little bit better, but as the rubber went down and as the track slickened up and got a little bit hotter, I got tighter, and so I just washed up off the bottom really bad and was able to get it slowed down just in time. You know, it did have a little bit of effect just where you get outside, what rubber is laid down, and it's really sandy out there for some reason. I don't know why. With as much rain as been here, you wouldn't think there'd be anything there, but there's just a little fine grit that's out there, and when your tire hits it, it just takes off and slides worse. So that's why I mentioned earlier about getting the track to just get rubber down, burn off all that stuff, all that slickness, in order to make it to where you have some sort of grip all the way across the track.
Tom.
Hey Kyle, Tom Jensen, FoxSports.com. Earlier in the session, you had 4 Toyotas in the top 6. You ended up with 4 in the top 9. Have you guys solved your mile-and-a-half issues, and you feel you're going to be good going forward?
I wouldn't say they're solved. I feel like Kansas was a good run for us for the 78, but the 78's been fast all year, so throw him to the side. It didn't seem like Denny or Matt or myself. I mean, I won a segment and I led some laps, but you know, Denny and myself, we were like 4th to 6th. You could have flipped us either way, and that's probably where we would have been. You know, Matt maybe a little bit farther behind, but here at Charlotte, it's kind of early to tell. You know, this place has developed a lot of character, and a lot more development needs to be in setup and the mechanical grip of the car. So we're working on that right now. I feel like we all really worked hard and studied hard this week about what we learned from the All-Star race, and we brought a better package here. And so that all helped us right away, and we'll see if that translates into race speed when we get back out there for race trim.
Hey Kyle, Phil Oberton from WSOC in Charlotte. I'm wondering if a dozen races in, I get your opinion of the move to segment racing, and specifically with the 600 being such a mental grind, now dividing it into segments, what impact that'll have on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean the 600 race is certainly a mental grind. It's also a physical grind. I mean you just get tired. You know, I wouldn't say you fall out of the seat. It's just when you're done, you're done. You know. For me though, I think the segment racing this year has been pretty good. It kind of gives you a chance to take a breather, get a break a little bit. You know, sometimes I like the races to go into the long runs though. I think that's where I excel. I like green flag pit stops. That's where I excel. So, you know, we've kind of taken some of those things away from what I enjoy doing, but it's made for some exciting moments. You know, certainly there's been a lot more restarts. You know, less debris cautions. We have more standardized cautions. I feel like that's a good thing. Anytime you throw a caution that we all don't know is coming, that's very aggravating, whether you're about ready to go a lap down or whether you're the leader, you know. So to have those things that are known before the race starts, it just makes our jobs not easier, but less complicated.
We're going to go to Chris and then Dustin.
Chris Knight, Kitchens.com. Kyle, Kevin Harvick was adamant on his radio show this week that the Truck Series needed to find a way to go back to its grassroots, back to the short tracks like they did in 96, 97, 98. Being a Truck Series owner, do you agree with that model after the sanctioning agreements are done through 2020, or is it immediate cause concern, the structure of the Truck Series right now?
I would definitely enjoy that model of going back to those racetracks. Now, again, how you accomplish that and how you get that done, that's for people a hell of a lot smarter than me to figure out. But I would certainly enjoy seeing the Truck Series go back to you know, Tucson or even around here. Go to Motor Mile. Go to some of these short tracks that you can put, you know, 10, 15, 20,000 people in the stands for an exciting truck race. Because, in all honesty, I mean that's the crowd count that you're getting at a mile and a half anyways, you know. So pack the place, make it look good, and put on a good show for the fans, and go back to some of the roots of short track racing that these drivers are coming up from, that the trucks came from, and Friday night shows, Saturday night shows, whatever it might be at some of these cool short tracks. And I think you'll put on a great show. You'll have the fans come out and support that. It's just how to make the model work. You know, there's TV money involved, there's sanctioning agreements involved, there's all kinds of too much behind the scenes BS that I'm not smart enough to figure out, but hopefully somebody can be smart enough to figure it out. Maybe this guy can figure it out.
Would that be cheaper for you?
Would it be cheaper?
Cheaper
Hell,
for
ain't
the
nothing
teams?
cheaper.
I mean, it wouldn't be cheaper to go to short track racing for the trucks compared to Talladega, Daytona, or Kentucky?
Well, yeah, Talladega, Daytona, you might as well ride off a truck every time you go to one of those. So, yeah, that expense is out. But, you know, you go to a short track and you bump and bang and root and grouge and you beat the body up a little bit. You're going to have to put a body on or a side on or something like that. But, you know, you go to a mile and a half, typically you don't touch anything, so you don't have to do anything when you come back to the shop. You just get it ready, freshen it up, and get it back ready to go for another mile and a half, you know. But short track stuff, you're going to have to fix more body work, so it might be an added cost on that front. You know, tire sets, how they determine that, things like that are what's going to make it interesting. I don't know, for some reason we've stepped away and away and away from short track racing. Trucks used to go to South Boston when I was a kid, you know. They used to go to more short tracks when I was even running some of the races, and we've gone to more mile and a halves just to compare and be with the Cup Series more and more to get the fan count, because I guess we weren't getting the fan count then. So I don't know. You know, it's all about butts in the seats.
We're going to wrap it up with Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Just to continue on that is, I know you say nothing's cheaper, but if you go to smaller tracks, I'm guessing there's smaller sanctioning fees and everything's probably cut back to some degree. How might it work, or what would be some of the initial challenges? I know you say there's a lot of other smarter people to think about these things, but if you start thinking about the idea of maybe in a couple of years when the sanctioning agreements wind up and maybe this becomes a course of action, how do you start thinking about making this viable if it's smaller tracks, potentially, you know, same size crowd, but, you know, smaller sense to it in making it a financial aspect, as opposed to, you know, you're going to some smaller place, you're making less money, and you've got to cut back.
Well, you just said it right there. If we make less money, you're digging our grave. So the sanctioning agreements can't be for any less money, that's for sure. We actually need them to be for more. You know, in order to cut our costs, we have to be able to make more money or compete for more money to race for more winnings. You know, if you cut our winnings out, you might as well just say goodbye. So, you know, there's a problem in that fact right there too. So, you know, it's about trying to get the butts in the seats. That's what matters most. I mean, if South Boston packed the place every single time and made money, and NASCAR made money, the teams made money, and all of us would still be going there. So there's obviously something that was missing, and I don't know what that was. But to figure that out and to be able to pack some of these short tracks and to put some the trucks back on some of those standalone events, I mean, you know, it's all about exciting moments, exciting racing, having some rooting and gouging. It's probably worth having fights in the pits. I mean, that's what it all comes down to. And you know, we'll see if any of that happens. All right.
Thank you, Kyle.